I would now call on stage Dr. J.K. Jena, DDG Fisheries ICAR. Please put your hands together for Dr. J.K. Jena. Ladies and gentlemen, let's now welcome on stage Dr. Tarun Sridhar, former Secretary, DAHD, Government of India. And let's welcome him with a huge round of applause. And last but not the least, let's welcome with a huge round of applause Dr. KML Pathak, former DDG AS, ICAR and ex-VC GAD BASU. Ladies and gentlemen, this completes our prolific panel for the inaugural session. Our dignitaries are all set and all seated on the stage. I would request all of you to give them a huge round of applause as we get started. As Dr. KML Pathak, former DDG AS, ICAR and ex-Vice Chancellor GAD BASU, I would request Sir to please deliver his welcome address, and let's welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Today's function, Dr. Avijit Mitra, Honorable Animal Husbandry Commissioner, Government of India, His Excellency Shri David Pine, Honorable High Commissioner, New Zealand High Commission, Honorable Dr. Shri Tarun Sridhar ji, former Secretary, Department of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairy, Government of India, Dr. J.K. Jena, DDG Fisheries and DDG Animal Sciences, Dr. Rajoria, very senior person and doyen of dairy industry, my mentor, Dr. P.K. Uppal, a very senior person, dignitaries from industry, Dr. Arun Atre, Dr. Kalita, Dr. Sanjay Gokeri, officers from Department of Animal Husbandry, State Government, Madam has come from Telangana CEO, and other dignitaries, Dr. Malik, I can see now, Dr. P.K. Malik, former Animal Husbandry Commissioner and nowadays CEO of Agri Innovate, and many stalwarts of animal health sector. A very warm welcome to the second edition of the Animal Health Summit. As you know, that the first summit was held last year, and it was a very successful, and you know that there was a large participation, and today I hope that there will be large participation. The main purpose of this Animal Health Summit, as said last year also, and again I am repeating, that we want to bring academia, we want to bring the people from the industry, we want to bring people from other organizations, we want to bring people from policy making peoples, so that this sector, who are contributing in animal health sector, which is growing at a very fast rate. You all know that we are number one in livestock population. We are one in milk production also, not for 1 year, but for the last 10 years or 11 years. We are number one, and we have done so much in the health sector also. And if you look to the policy of central government policy, after 2014, livestock sector has gone drastic changes. The central government has taken so many initiatives which has never been taken earlier in the history of India. Animal husbandry sector is now getting proper place in priorities of the National Planning Commission or Niti Aayog. And this department, as you all know, I again repeat it, because this is a proud to know that this department has been separated, and Department of Animal Husbandry, Dairying and Fisheries under a separate ministry in 2019. and realizing the importance of the livestock health, the first time in the history of independent India, so much budget was allotted by our Honorable Prime Minister to address the animal health sector. This is a good thing, and so many new programs. If you look to the website of the Animal Husbandry Department, DADF, you will see so many new programs have been initiated just to promote the livestock sector, realizing the contribution of the livestock sector in the GDP of our country. When we talk about the production, at the same time, health is also very important. And we are happy that we are sufficient in vaccine production. Our farmers are getting good animal health care. Recently, the government has started the mobile veterinary unit just to give the health coverage at the doorstep of our farmer. So the animal health sector is growing very fast. And to discuss what are the opportunities in this sector, what are the challenges in this sector, and how we can convert the weaknesses of this sector into strength, we are meeting today. And this is the second summit, and we have planned to continue this type of the summit every year. Distinguished guest participants present in this meeting. Dr. Khan supposed to be here, but due to some other emergency, he has gone to Chennai. But we all know his contribution for this organization, ICPA. ICPA is doing good work for the welfare of the farmers, for the welfare of the dairy sector, for the welfare of the poultry sector people. So, on behalf of ICPA and my whole team, I again welcome you all. I could see Dr. Sahu, welcome. He is a director of the Camel Research Institute, Bikaner. So, thank you very much, madam.
Tarun Sridhar, former secretary, DAHD, Government of India. Dr. KML Patel, former DSG, ASICAR. I would also request Ms. Anna Nair, group editor at Budget Radio, to please join our dignitaries for the auspicious lamp lighting, as our dignitaries lighted the ceremonial lamp and we pray to God to move from darkness to light, from ignorance to knowledge, and from agony to happiness. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the auspicious beginning of the second AIMIL Summit 2023.
Please come forward. Yeah. Look at please.
Lighting, it is now time that I request Dr. Tarun Sridhar, former secretary, DAHD, Government of India, to please step forward for his address. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dr. Tarun Sridhar.
Dr. Abhijit Mitra, the Animal Husbandry Commissioner of India, and also the Chief Veterinary Officer of India. His Excellency, Mr. David Pine, my very dear colleague, former colleague, my guru in fisheries, Dr. J.K. Jaina. Whatever little I have learned is about fisheries from him. And if I still expose my ignorance, I am squarely to be blamed and not his teachings. Dr. KML Pathak was a great friend and a well-wisher, Dr. Ajora and all the illustrious dignitaries in the audience. It's been a singular honor and matter of great pleasure for me to have participated in the first Animal Health Summit, which was started last year, and again I have had the privilege of being here today in the inaugural session. It's very interesting that if you see the history of human health and animal health, right from the prehistoric days, probably the civilizations required that animal health is as important as human health. But somehow we lost it along the way. When I view animal health, I would say that animal health and human health are synonyms. Allow me to just consult from an article I had written some time back, and I think it was for Agriculture Today itself. What is the mission statement of the World Organization of Animal Health? WOAH, or what is it called? WHO? World Organization of Animal Health, erstwhile OIE. It says, our mission is to improve animal health globally, thereby ensuring a better future for all. Now let us see the mission statement of World Health Organization, WHO. We champion health and a better future for all. So both in terms of whether a global body for animal health or human health, both say that better health means better future for all. There's a British scientist, Adam Rutherford. His specialty is genetics. He's coined this term called humanimal. He says 90% of the genetic makeup of human beings is identical to that of the ape. So we have all studied that we have evolved from primates. Why he's coined the term humanimal is that in terms of health issues and the health interventions required, there's not much of a difference between what an animal requires or what a human being requires. The father of medicine, Hippocrates, I think way back in 400 BC, had talked in terms of the importance of integrating animal health into the entire gamut of management of public health and management of human health. In his treatise of airs, waters and places, that is precisely what he says, that health, management of health is actually an integral management of human, animal and environmental health. He had recognized it then, but today we are grappling and trying to propagate the concept of One Health. It comes from there. And it's no coincidence that global community had woken up to the need for a cooperative and collaborative effort to manage animal health much before they woke up to collaboration in human health. World Organization of Animal Health was established in 1924, whereas the World Health Organization came into existence 24 years later in the year 1948. Alexander the Great had introduced veterinary medicine and veterinary science when he was the ruler. Somehow, as we evolved with our evolution and with advancement in science and other things, probably we should have maybe done much later advancements in the field of animal health, but somehow we divorced the two, separated the two and started tackling them separately rather than again saying that, well, either animals are non-humans and humans are non-humans and humans are non-animals. So that's why I'm very fascinated by Adam Rutherford's term of humanimal. I'm very happy that was one of the most advanced nations and countries in terms of management of veterinary systems and management of livestock systems. And many times I say that we take pride in the fact that probably we will continue to be the biggest milk producer for several decades to come. We are so huge. But I don't think we'll be able to match New Zealand in terms of productivity and the quality of the product. And when we talk of animal health, it is not merely management of health of animal or addressing or redressing the issue of diseases. It is also managing the quality of the food products and the integrity of the food products which the livestock give. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, it was a formal inaugural session, but I got carried away. There will be, I think, technical sessions to come in which we'll participate.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Tarun Sridhar. You had our hearts when you said that animal health is as important as human health. Thank you so much, sir, for your warm address. And after this, it is now time that I call upon stage Dr. J.K. Jena, DDG Fisheries, ICAR. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Dr. J.K. Jena.
Tele-Director Abhijit Mitraji, Honorable Animal Husbandry Commissioner, Government of India, His Excellency H.E. David Paineji, Honorable High Commissioner of New Zealand, Dr. Tarun Sidarji, former Secretary DASD, Government of India, Dr. KML Pathakji, former DDG Animal Science and ex-Vice Chancellor of God Bhashu, Dr. Anjana Nayarji, Madam Benita, Dr. Uppal, Dr. Praveen Malik, Dr. Sahu, and all dignitaries, delegates present in this hall, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great pleasure and opportunity for me to be here in this platform. When I got invitation, I did not know why I got invitation. Just 2-3 days before invitation, I was given additional charge of animal science in ICAR. So I was thinking whether I was invited as a DDG of animal science or fisheries. I did not know. I was introduced animal fisheries. So I do not know whether I should be speaking on animal or fish. I should be integrating. I consider fish is also an animal. So I would be, my 5-7 minutes, I would like to speak on all health aspects of animal and fisheries. Friends, all of us today are well convinced the necessity of health management or greater attention necessary for health management today than earlier days. Probably everybody is more convinced after the period of COVID. Whether it is human health, animal health, fish health, soil health, or environment health. We have been talking One Health these days so rampantly. Everybody talks of One Health. When we talk of again probably livestock and all, we know how a country with such a huge population of more than 300 million of animal livestock, that is what we say all the time. We say also the importance of livestock today contributing to the GDP of the country. We know when everybody says about the future of agriculture, everybody talks of animal science and fisheries also today. The growth pace at which these two sectors has been growing. Everybody says future, these are the sector for the future. If we are looking at this point of time, we have been strategizing for our future, at least if not beyond next 25 years, Amrit Kal, what we have been talking by 2047. So all of us are trying to strategize what will be our perspective for next 25 years. We know we have done so well also. When we talk of animal health, we have done so well. At least last 2 decades, the country has been able to eradicate several important diseases, whether you talk of rinderpest, contagious bovine pleuropneumonia, or African sickness, African horse sickness. Yes, there have been some intervention, scientific intervention has gone in, development efforts has gone in, but several other diseases all of us know. The issues, so when you talk of livestock diseases, bovine diseases, whether it is FMD, brucellosis, these are HS and all, has been a problem. We know the governmental program on vaccination program. In spite of all facts, still the issues all of us know. Whether it is small ruminant, when we do talk of PPR, and recent years the problem of African swine fever issues, all of us know how this disease has been causing issues for us. In spite of all our effort of new vaccinations program, which for example recently lumpy skin disease everybody talks of, I am sure in the technical session all will be discussed in detail. We are prepared for every emergency situation, but it takes time. All of us know when COVID came, whole world was working for vaccination. In spite of all those efforts, all sorts of pumping money, still it took about 2 years with all regulatory mechanism had to be eased. In spite of that also it took time. So whenever any disease comes because of whatever reason, it takes time to have its control system in place. We know we have several mechanisms. When I do talk of ICR, all of you know under the animal science division, we have 5 dedicated institutes: IVR, Nivedi, Nisad, FMD Institute, NIFMD, as well as NRC Equine. In spite of all those, we have diagnostic in place, we have vaccine in place. Still, this disease has been causing issues over years. I do not know. We did a few years back. We had a loss estimate. Probably Dr. Malik Saab or Abhijit Mitraji will be able to tell how much we lose, what is the loss because of the 2 important diseases, brucellosis and FMD. A few years back, I remember about 5 years back, we used to give a figure somewhere around 42, now it is more, 42,000 crores. We used to say, now he says 50,000 crores we lose at this point of time, whether it is directly, indirectly, and so on and so forth. In spite of all efforts, still we are not able to do, because our population is so huge. Population is not an issue. The place at which we have the livestock population, the remote places, reaching to every locality becomes so difficult at one go. You know, at one place we have drought going, is there, other place there is a flood. Reaching, we know that, for example, vaccination has to be done every 6 months. So reaching to all those places in every 6 months is becomes so difficult at this point of time. In spite of all that, all issues, still the country has been able to do well in several areas, vaccination, diagnostic and all. But few area remains issue is one is, and all of us know such diseases how it is important because of zoonotic nature. That is what all the time we say. Today, if we have whatever the human disease are about more than 60% are coming from the livestock. We know some of our institute have been working on several therapeutics, vaccines, diagnostic and all, but when you look at the country's requirement, probably it is more necessary how more institutes, organizations join hands. That is what Madam was talking of, partnership. Today, when you talk of SDG goals, the goal number 17th says partnership for all those whatever goal we have set. So important when you talk of livestock, the first 2-3 goals, SDG goals, whether no poverty, zero hunger and well-being, these first three goals definitely when we try to relate the contribution of livestock is so relevant today. It is not only by 2030, it will remain relevant in coming so many years also. At this point of time, probably more important it is what is necessary is diagnosis. Yes, it is not that 5 labs in the country or whatever the labs of the government of India would be able to serve. It is necessary that the capacity building of these labs so important, because every 2-3 years you have a new disease coming in. Whether all our labs what we have, they have adequate capacity to diagnose the disease what we have. That is important. For example, we say, okay, today everybody talks of any disease, lumpy skin disease, whether it is lumpy skin disease or anything else, whether all of our labs are well equipped or not. So networking of labs, and at this point of time, I'm sure Dr. Mitra Saab will be agreeing, a proficiency testing of the lab is so important every now and then, because if I have a lab, never I will admit that I do not have capacity. Everybody who possesses lab, whether it is government, private, NGOs, they will say their lab is the best because I have so much equipment, so probably I will be able to do. So capacity building and for proficiency testing will be so important in coming days. And in this endeavor, lab networking will be so relevant. Of course, recent years for friends, I would like to mention some of our institute, as you know, at least more than a dozen of diseases we have a good surveillance in place. Not only today, for example, the institute like Nivedi or NIFMD have been working on several of the diseases on regular basis, along with the state animal husbandry department, surveillance of this all those diseases. But is it enough? Whether the investment, whatever we have been doing, is adequate enough or not, that we need. Dr. Tarun Sridhar Saab was helm of the affair for a long time in the ministry, in the fisheries department as a joint secretary. I would like to mention also the people. People say whether any individual can make a difference or not. We say individual may not be so important, but I will say it is the individual only who makes difference. I was a director of an institute in Lucknow about 10 years back. One day, Tarun Sridhar ji, that time he did a joint secretary fisheries, he was there in Lucknow. While discussion, he asked me, is there any issue that we can do, help? Then we said, sir, we had submitted a project on fish disease surveillance, which is lying for about 2 years. We had an NFDB, National Fishery Development Board. Can you help? Then he told, you write down. He told, you write what you want. In that, sitting at the table itself, I wrote a application to him that we have submitted a project of about 34 crores. There itself, sitting down in my room itself, he wrote, NFDP, please do necessary action for sanction of this project. You see, just 34 crores project 10 years back. We could not imagine, and within 1 month the project was in place. And today, if the country is able to take lead not only in the surveillance program of fisheries, it was because of Tarun Sridhar Saab. And today, let me tell you, in 7 years, the capacity building what we have made in case of disease surveillance and fisheries has been not only acknowledged in India, but globally our surveillance system is acknowledged. OI has brought out, sir, 4-page article telling this, giving example of surveillance system of India. So that is the stage at which we are today. We have an emergency system in place. If tomorrow we expect that something is serious because of this transboundary movement and all, probably our emergency system is so strong, we will be able to cope those challenges. About 7-8 years back, we had a problem in case of fisheries, let me tell you. There was a hue and cry everywhere in the newspaper, in the TV channel, that India is affected with a disease called AHPND, early mortality syndrome in case of shrimp. You know that shrimp industry is a big industry today. Only one species, farm shrimp, contributes about 40,000 crores of export today. So, the disease not here, and the government took all measures for taking import and all. So today, even after 5 years, this country is free from AHPND. So this is one area where how much you are prepared to take responsibility, how much you have been equipped to forecast the diseases which are likely to be there tomorrow. So this is so important at this point of time. Today again, let me tell you, we have been talking of One Health, and last 4-5 years we have a strong surveillance system in place on AMR, antimicrobial resistance, which we have been getting full support of the Department of Animal Husbandry, Department of Fisheries, and ICAR is taking lead. Today we have about 29 partner institutes, not only ICAR Institute, but also ICAR as well as State Agriculture University and all others. And in the coming days, we are trying to again increase this surveillance program into a bigger platform. Again, trying to have support from Dr. Mitraji. We had a discussion about 2-3 days back, how department will be able to help us in expanding our program of AMR. We say that if today everybody talks of problem issues, for tomorrow everybody talks climate change is an issue. Everyone talks, but probably AMR is another third generation problem, which is much more serious than the climate change. All of us know in this endeavor, the antimicrobial, not only antimicrobial resistance, antimicrobial usage surveillance will be so relevant in the coming days. Friends, I don't intend to take the time. I think I have taken more than the whatever time allotted to me. But we need to work with the partnership. That is what the today requirement. Not only on the therapeutic, today we have several challenges, several expectations, whether it is therapeutic formulation, veterinary medicines, every aspect becomes so very relevant and so important. So I am sure in coming days we will join hands as much as possible and take this vision of managing the animal health in a greater perspective. So thank you very much.
I would now invite for his address His Excellency David Pine, Honorable High Commissioner, New Zealand High Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Namaste and tēnā koutou katoa. It's a great privilege to be here with such a distinguished panel at an event that we saw be so successful last year, and I'm delighted to participate in this year. In New Zealand, humans are outnumbered by livestock by more than 7 to 1. So it's good to be talking about livestock in a country where humans still have the majority. I'm going to talk a little bit about India's animal health context and our own systems, but before I do, I just want to make a general remark that our two countries are coming together. We've seen a big increase in the level of activity at the ministerial level, the government level. We had Minister Jaishankar visit last October in New Zealand. We've had a significant delegation down from AIMIL. We had our own food safety minister, our own agriculture minister visit India all in the last 12 months. So it's an area where both governments have signalled they want us to cooperate more, and so I'm delighted to be here on that basis. My colleagues Mal and Akancha are doing this every day. I think that Dr. Shweta explained extremely well why this subject matters so much. Human beings are capable of great thoughts, great acts of courage and compassion, great insights. But we have, as he said, evolved as primates, and we lose sight of this fundamental and humbling truth at our peril. And if the recent COVID-19 pandemic didn't bring that lesson home to everyone, it's hard to imagine what would. As we emerge from the supply chain disruptions, the lockdowns, the isolation that were the consequences of COVID-19, we in parallel are having to think also about the impacts of climate change, including on animal health, where it's a point of concern. For New Zealand, we have to worry about the impact of agriculture on the climate and the impact of the climate on agriculture. It definitely goes both ways. Our profile for emissions is very different from any other developed country. Fully 50% of our emissions are attributable to agriculture. Most of that is methane. And just as a small illustration, sick livestock produce more methane, which in turn negatively impacts on climate change outcomes. And resulting rises in temperature then increase the risk of heat stress and infectious diseases, creating a compounded circle that we all want to avoid. Consumers are becoming more conscious of their food choices and the impact of these. Plant-based alternative proteins, for example, are increasingly taking a share of traditional animal product markets, advertising lower emissions impacts, ethicality and safety to consumers. As global awareness of animal health has heightened, international fora such as the World Organization for Animal Health that we've heard mentioned, and others are playing a vital role in fostering global cooperation. And the existence of this summit is a testament to that growing global awareness of animal health significance and the need for countries to consider seriously the role they're going to play and the role this issue will play as a determinant of development outcomes. For India, a nation with the world's largest population, ensuring positive animal health outcomes is obviously pivotal to achieving your aspirations. This is a country with strong vegetarian traditions, a country with strong sustainability traditions. But what we're seeing as your population expands and as your middle class grows is that demand for food, including animal-derived products such as milk, meat and eggs, is climbing. And so too will demands from the consumer base for food that is nutritious and safe to eat. So meeting this challenge sustainably is going to require new tools, techniques and policies. India's adoption of the One Health concept is something we all admire as an exemplary approach, which I'm sure will be discussed in further detail at the summit. The integrated approach, which considers the interconnectedness of people, animals and the environment, is exactly the approach that we feel is needed the world over, and India is leading the way. And like India, we are deeply invested in animal health. We share strong agricultural foundations. We have rich cultural heritages rooted in agriculture. And the importance of animal health extends way beyond monetary considerations. It's an integral part of our social identity and reflects a profound relationship between animals and the land. We're an island nation with an economy that's heavily dependent on the export of animal products, so I don't need to emphasise the importance of animal health. Our geographical isolation is both a blessing and a curse. We're a long way from our markets. That brings a lot of challenges, but we have the advantages of being able to manage the incursion of pests and disease, and we take full advantage of that without apology for having very strict quarantine regulations. It's crucial for us that if we have the disadvantages, we have to make the most out of the advantages we have. But also it means that there are a lot of diseases which are common in the rest of the world to which we haven't been fully exposed and which we don't know a lot about. So we can show the world what things look like in places where diseases haven't come. And we can learn from the world about the management of diseases like foot-and-mouth disease, which India manages so effectively. We hope it will never come to New Zealand, but we need to understand it, and India teaches us a lot about that. If I can say so, I think there are probably 3 key lessons from New Zealand's experiences that might be useful to India. The first is that legislation has driven favourable animal health outcomes. Our legislative framework is fundamental to our animal health outcomes and wider economy. We have earned a reputation as a trusted trading partner, and we work zealously to safeguard that reputation, to sustain our rural communities and to uphold domestic food security. And our legislative framework is the fundamental organising principle for all of that. Central to our animal health regulation is the Biosecurity Act, which is overseen by the Ministry of Primary Industries, I should say. Instilled with broader powers, this Act serves as the backbone of our biosecurity system, and if you want to know any more about it, Mel will be happily able to give you information The second lesson is that our biosecurity system is robust and comprehensive, and it stretches from border to farm gate. Our biosecurity system has two primary objectives: preventing pests and diseases from crossing our border, and efficiently managing and eradicating them in the event of an incursion. And the third lesson, I think, from our experience is the importance of strong government and industry partnerships, which are absolutely central to achieving positive animal health outcomes. I think I'll leave those lessons there. I'm happy to answer any questions about them in more detail. But the main message I want to leave you with is that we are already collaborating with India on animal health and very, very keen to do more. So as we enhance our animal systems, health systems, we really want to learn from your experience and your expertise. We're committed to sharing our knowledge to foster mutual improvements across respective health systems. We're very pleased to see the cooperation activities that are already taking place. We have 3 Indian officials participating in a New Zealand-run applied epidemiology course in May. Another area, as I mentioned, of practical potential cooperation is addressing foot-and-mouth disease. Our Chief Veterinary Officer will be up here in November for the AH Regional Conference. And all of these collaborations are important in their own right and signal the direction that both governments want to go in. We envision a future where both India and New Zealand benefit from shared knowledge and experiences and contribute to the well-being and resilience of our animal populations, people and environment. Thank you very much to the organisers of this summit.
Thank you so much, His Excellency David Pine, for sharing your wonderful thoughts and for throwing some light that India and New Zealand share a lot of cultural as well as agricultural ties together. Thank you so much, sir, for your warm address. And after this, it is now time to hear it from our chief guest of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now call on stage our chief guest for his inaugural address, Dr. Abhijit Mitra, Animal Husbandry Commissioner, Government of India. Ladies and gentlemen, we can do a lot better with our applause. Let's hear it for him.
Most respected my teacher, Dr. Pathak sir, former secretary, Dr. Tarun Sidarji, my very senior colleague and who nurtured me in many ways, Dr. Jina sir, David Panji, my predecessor, Dr. Malik, great grand old man of the livestock sector, Professor Utpal sir, my another teacher, Dr. Rajaria from India Life, my friend, Dr. Shao, I could see many known faces, Dr. Ashim from NIH, Bagpat, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very proud privilege to stand before you and thank you for this honor to give, not to me, but the chair I hold, the Chief Veterinary Officer, right, or Tarun Sidarji. Before I start my lecture, I would like to remind you with a clue of what Tarun Sidarji, who is a prolific writer, he is also our ambassador. So I congratulate you, and I would like to tell that when a person from outside the sector speaks about the sector, people listen more. So you please continue to do that. And when I was sitting, you passed me an article on Pungur cattle. And we are having nearly 292 characterized genetic resources in India, livestock. When I say that 65% of the livestock resources are yet to be characterized. So that's the status of our livestock sector. So with your clue, you told that we are evolved from ape. That also reminds me a story that when Hanuman was born, he was very hungry and he went for a son to grab. And he was cursed that you will not remind your power until and unless somebody reminds you. So all of us actually born with a curse that we will not remember our potential unless somebody will come and tell that much you can do it. Why I am telling that? Probably COVID-19 is a kind of a warning and came and told us on the horizon that get up, you can control pandemic, you can delay pandemic, you can manage pandemic, provided you are well prepared. With this small note, we will also remind you that growth of incidences of zoonotic diseases is growing at a rate of 6%. It looks like a kind of a GDP of a country. It goes like a very straight. And last one decade, the incidence of zoonotic outbreaks has increased globally by 3 times, which costed more than $400 billion globally, and India also, what Janasab was telling, we are losing huge amount of money, trade, livelihood, and also a lot of displacement. So when I was talking with some of you during our initial talk, I think that every one of us agreed one thing, that for a better human health, we have to make animal health better. So animal health for better human health, animal health for one health, animal health for universal health. That is so much is written. In India particularly, when you talk about animal husbandry, it is not a business, it is a way of life, the way we live. Because we live with the animals, animal lives with us. That also put a concern about so-called biosecurity. I am conscious about using the word so-called biosecurity. I remember in my childhood when I was suffered from a pox, the whole house was in a kind of biosecure containment facility. I was not allowed to go out. My utensils, my clothes, my everything were put in a separate place. My house members will not go anywhere. Only one person was allowed to go out of our home. So this I am telling in somewhere in 1976 or so. So we knew culturally what is the role of biosecurity. It is nothing new to us. Well, coming to the government sector, I just want to tell you some of the rosy things, because that also is required to spread the good news. Jinasab, I fully agree with you that single man can do many things. It all depends on how he does the thing. In your probably very few first article, you wrote that getting a posting in animal husbandry department as a secretary is a kind of people think it is a kind of not a good posting. You are not wrong though, because socially the perspective is like that, perception is like that. I was doing my physics honors. I never read biology. Math was my third subject and biology was my optional subject, and I used to put glue in my biology book so that some of the page got stuck, and during exam I don't have a heart attack that I have to read so many pages. That's the way I started my biology life. I never not thought that I will come to veterinary. One of my, I think, Nehru, he was a big PCS officer. And those days, finding a PCS officer in your neighborhood is also a kind of, it's not easy. So he called one day, he told, this is the advertisement and you should apply. There is a course of veterinary going on and there is a very bright prospect. So my father could not understand. He applied and I applied the examination. First list I could not qualify, second list I could not qualify. Somehow, third waiting list I could qualify, and I was not willing to go. But I had to join with the peer pressure, and first thing happened, I lost few of my friends and some significant friends because I joined veterinary science. They told, "Dangar ka doctor ke saath kaun shaadi karega?" You know, that is a kind of a perspective you had in the society. But I tell you, had I studied medical, had I studied physics and arts, I would not have learned and I would not have reached to this stage. So if I got come again, and if you ask me what you want, I had to do it really two things. And I'm very clear about that. First thing, I want to born in India and in Bengal, for very sure. And in Shantiniketan, where is my home is. And I want to be a veterinarian again. So that's the kind of, I'm very clear about that. Now, so you are right, sir. Any secretary come to the department, first thing happens, मैं कहाँ पहुँच गया? And then he or she realized that this sector has a tremendous things to do and tremendous things to serve in the country and tremendous things to do for the people who are mostly landless, marginal, and that amounts to 280 million people and 66% of them are women. You touch everybody's life from a cup of tea in the morning, boiled egg, and then your clothes, your shoes, your belt, your protein source, anything. So by 2050, we need to increase about 16% of protein need. And if data is correct, the source of protein is going to come from animal protein because dependency on plant-based protein is going to be reduced by nearly 15%, and that itself is going to be replaced by the animal protein. So you have a tremendous jobs go ahead in ahead of us. I will tell you some of the government initiatives, like one I think mentioned Pathak Sahab, that we have launched nearly 4,430 MVU, that is called Mobile Veterinary Unit. And the purpose of Mobile Veterinary Unit was to make the veterinary health services accessible to the last mile. The numbers are not sufficient, we need more number, that is one initiative. Second, government also realized that there is a need of One Health coordination in the department, and I think I should give credit to my predecessor, Dr. Malik. During his time, he established a unit called One Health Support Unit, and then we tried to grab some foreign funding and collaboration, and we got nearly 80 to 164 million US dollar with a 50% participation of government of India from World Bank for rejuvenating the veterinary health services of 5 pilot states. That is one. Second thing, very recently, if you remember, during the COVID and during the last G20 presidency of Indonesia, they realized that we need to have a significant amount of fund for future pandemic. So participation of nearly 130 or plus country, we could generate around 2.5 billion US dollar as a kit. Out of that, 339 million US dollar fund was declared as a pandemic fund, and it was launched during January of this 2023. And expression of interest was called. Nearly 180 proposals were submitted throughout the world. From India, we submitted 2 proposals, one from the human health sector and one from the animal health sector. And I must tell you, the last Friday we got the news that World Bank, that pandemic fund, has selected one of our projects, our animal health project, and they are giving an intent of 225 million US dollar as a grant, which is nearly 180 to 200 crores of Indian currency. And as a result of that, we are also getting a catalytic co-financing from Asian Development Bank of 175 million US dollar, as a co-financing grant for uplifting and rejuvenating this animal sector. We have also come forward to launch a policy initiative called API, Animal Pandemic Preparedness Initiative. And the purpose of that is to create a policy environment in the country for a better research, better product, more transparency, and it's a better governance. So if you remember Tarun, we used to get a lot of application for drug permissions and all, and there is always a people will be running behind from one, you will get a call, minister will call, my proposal is pending. I think again Dr. Malik initiated that and we finally completed it. That whole process has become now online, and we launch a portal called Nandi. And also what Dr. Jina has mentioned, ICL is running one big network on AIMIL, antimicrobial resistance, and we have been talking, I think, last few days that how we can strengthen it. Today I had a discussion with people from Mott McDonald that we are also having a significant of fund under the training fund and how initiative can come for animal health sector. Before I end, I would like to mention few more points which I think we many times forget. This we understand that we have to have a more enable veterinary health services. We need better vaccines, we need better drug, we need a human our capacity building, all those. But one thing we are forgetting, country like India is blessed with a huge genetic resources. This is the largest livestock species we have. Our population number is nearly 528 million. And our cattle is 190 million. And out of that, nearly 60% cattle is yet to be characterized. Provolone is just one of those 52 breeds what you wrote. Why I am mentioning it, these livestock species having one thing very common, they are very resilient. They are resilient to environment, they are resilient to diseases, they are resilient to feed conversion. Unless we utilize this genetic resilience of our livestock species for a better health, and only we heavily rely on vaccine and drug and diagnostic, we will be doing injustice for these huge genetic resources. So that is one aspect. When you talk about One Health, utilization and exploitation of these huge genetic resources would be one important aspect. Finally, it is a if not today, I think tomorrow will be too late. We are very urgently, last 100 years, whatever pandemic is happening, all pandemic has a one thing common, that they are animal origin, including the last COVID. God forbid, next pandemic doesn't come. But if it comes, it will be again a kind of animal origin. Day before yesterday, in Middle East, there is a one person died because of Mars. Mars is generally found it is a disease which is spreaded by a camel. So all diseases are on the horizon. It is very written on the big horizon way that how big this challenge is. So better be ready today, better prepared.
Yes, please, ma'am. Would you please, sir? Would you, sir? Thank you.
I would request Ms. Nair to do the honors for Dr. J.K. Jena, DDG Fisheries, ICAR. I would request ma'am to felicitate Dr. Karan Sridhar, former Secretary, DASG.
Yes, please, sir.
Thank you. Last but not the least, I would request you to felicitate Dr. K.M.L. Pathak, former DDG, AS, ICAR.
ICAR. And after this, it is now time that I invite the lady herself for the vote of thanks. I will now call on stage Ms. Anjana Nair, Group Editor, Agriculture Today Group, to deliver the vote of thanks for this session.
It's very heartening to see that we have started viewing animal health in a more comprehensive manner. And also, it is finally good to see that we have started realizing that Earth is not just our resource, it's everyone else's. And it is with great pride that that AT, Agriculture Today, has recognized the importance of animal health, and we have come forward in organizing an Animal Health Summit for the second time. And a huge round of applause to my team, Vinita, Aiti, Zaman, Anil, Ankit, for organizing this and for being with us, and MJ Khan sir, who is not here right now with us, but who is actually the brain behind all of this. So let me extend my gratitude to our chief guest, Dr. Abhijit Mitra, who had decided to come forward despite his official duties, and His Excellency David Pine, who is here with us, and also Dr. J.K. Jaina, who is also DDG Animal Husbandry and Fisheries. And my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Tarun sir, because none of our panel is complete without him. And not the last one but not least, Dr. KML Pathak sir, who has been constantly supporting us and encouraging us and providing his wisdom. And thank you all for being here. Thank you once again.
Gentlemen, this completes our inaugural session at the second India Animal Health Summit, and
Thank you.
with the first panel discussion for the day, well, policies and regulatory ecosystems are necessary and much needed for any and every sector, and agriculture sector as well as the animal health sector is no different. So our first panel will deliberate upon policy and regulatory ecosystem for animal health sector. I would invite the session chairperson. I would start with inviting the session chairperson.
Well, on the onset, I must appreciate and say congratulations to Agriculture Today on the onset for organizing this second summit. Good morning, everybody. Animal Husbandry Wing has been adopting good policy framework to curtail infectious and non-infectious diseases for many years. When I say this, I mentioned that Government of India could control and eradicate devastating disease like rinderpest, which was taking a heavy toll and was responsible for devastating effect all over the world. It has crippled the economy of many countries. It brought famine in many countries, and it brought a lot of losses. But with the great efforts of Government of India, Department of Animal Husbandry, the disease was eradicated. Now, if we look at very critically, it said that control of rinderpest brought green revolution in India according to FAO. And $1 spent, we gained $20 for the control of this disease. I am mentioning this just to give the idea the control of devastating diseases brings better economic gains and better prosperity. Therefore, the importance of spending money is worth doing it. If we look at the one example, when we got eradication of rinderpest on 25th March in 2016, and we got globally eradication on 23rd August 2011, of which I happened to be the organizer of FAO, and the program was conducted where the Ministry of Animal Husbandry, Dairying, FAO, WHO, and Dr. Kemal Pathak was also a part of the system, and eradication program was done. Now, eradication of the diseases has a very important role to play in the economy of the country. So now, moreover, if we look presently, Government of India is also adopting several animal health and disease control programs which reduces the risk to animal health by vaccination, by capacity building, as well as by supporting the disease surveillance and monitoring, and have the sufficient budget for this program. Now, strengthening a veterinary hospital and mobile unit, which were just mentioned, are also there in command by the ministry. Now, I believe, now with the advent of globalization, policy frame should aim for three major things: that economic gains, environmental protection, and social equity. Because these are the three things which I believe should have the aim: special economic gains, environmental protection, and social equity. And there should be removing the subsidies, which we always look in that angle. So I believe that there should be apex board, which should have the command, this apex board, for coordination and implementation on the work of 4 pillars of policy frame. These pillars, I believe, should be risk assessment, risk management, and risk communication. Above all, I believe there should be modern animal health framework, biosecurity, innovation, and research, because I believe health is wealth. And therefore, if we have this apex board for coordination and implementation of these 4 pillars which I just mentioned, that is risk assessment, management, communication, modern animal health framework, biosecurity, and innovation and research, and especially about the AMR. Now, when we talk about the risk assessment, management, and communication, I believe there should be sound and reliable diagnostic system with accredited system of the reagents, because that brings you the better monitoring and surveillance. And monitoring and surveillance is the key factor for the disease control program and eradication. And there should be such, because we know from the history that there has been emergence of new diseases from time to time. So there should be strategy, should determine the control program of policies with a little risk. There should not be too much risk. Therefore, we must have a system that we must control emerging and re-emerging diseases through risk assessment, management, and communication through the reliable sero monitoring and system. The second pillar, which I believe should be modern animal health framework, which should include existing laws, should be simplified, and must be under one umbrella rather than several laws having different views. And large number of laws should be brought in one place, and it should be efficient and effective. Similarly, we should have the schemes which are efficient and effective, and there should be standard operative procedure at every level, so that we should appreciate at every level, whether it is a quarantine system, whether it is different system. Now, pillar 3, which I believe should be the biosecurity at farm level, biosecurity at our international borders. It should also have security of a great thing on the movement of animals. This can only be achieved if we have identification and traceability of all animals. Unless we have identification and traceability, and we think of 540 million animals. Now, in that sense, because when we talk of One Health and when we talk of the human health safety, we must have the traceability and identification. And this needs to be addressed very effectively and efficiently. Now, above all, then we should have the phytosanitary measures at various levels, whether it is at the farm level, whether at the border level, whether at the various other places. Now, the fourth pillar, which I believe is innovation and research. Now, innovation and research is the greatest thing which need to be addressed. When we have more innovation and research, we will have the innovative research leading to diagnostics and newer technologies, newer methods, pen test, molecular test, various vaccines, various immunobiologicals, and I believe prevention is better than cure. These were the few things which I wanted to mention. We need to address these things in a better way because identification and traceability is very important, and especially when we talk of another thing, we must have health management, especially clean water. We should have hygienic feed, probiotic, antibiotics, and many other things which we believe there. So control of antibiotic usage is very important, particularly when we talk of AMR. Now, another thing is we must also have the responsibility for practice.
And besides that, you've also shown us the future roadmap and drawn attention to the 4 pillars and how it is essential that each pillar is as strong as the other one, so that we have a very harmonious and balanced approach to management of animal health. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us Dr. Navneet Dhand, a very celebrated veterinary scientist who has with him very rich international experience, both in management as also in teaching. And I think he would have some very important points to make with respect to veterinary services in India and where are the gaps. Before I hand it over to Dr. Dhand, I have with me the observations of the World Organization of Animal Health with respect to veterinary services in India. I was fortunate to interact with them when they had come for the performance of veterinary services evaluation, the PBS pathway. So this is what the WOAH, World Animal Health Organization, has to say. It says the veterinary services of India, Dr. Malik, dhyan se suniye. The veterinary services of India have a very competent and professional staff of veterinarians, veterinary paraprofessionals, and other highly qualified specialists in appropriate positions. So this is what they have to say about the human resource managing the veterinary sector. But they go on to say that there are some serious gaps and inadequacies in infrastructure, investment, and manpower availability. So there's a dichotomy. We have excellent human resource, but we have huge gaps as far as rest of the infrastructure and facilities are concerned. And there are huge gaps as far as the monitoring and surveillance of animal health is concerned. So Dr. Dhand, probably with your international experience and having executed projects, you could tell us how to address this issue of huge gaps in infrastructure.
And can I say before I start that I completely agree with you when you say that we have a great human resource. So I have probably trained veterinary epidemiologist in more than 15 countries, and I can say with confidence that no country has better veterinarians than India has. So you have a great human resource, but the problem is that as you mentioned, there is infrastructure issues, but more than that, I think we need to train our veterinarians in epidemiology, in tackling outbreaks and in conducting surveillance, and that component is not given a due emphasis in our veterinary curriculum. So, and India is not alone. In many of the countries, so the focus is not as much on surveillance and outbreak investigation. So we started a consortium. We established a consortium in Australia called Asia Pacific Consortium of Veterinary Epidemiology that was funded by the Australian government, but involves veterinary epidemiologists from all vet schools of Australia and New Zealand. And the aim is to strengthen epidemiology capacity in 8 countries of the Asia Pacific region. So I'm the leader of that consortium, and we have implemented that project in 8 countries and just finished on 30th of June this year. So the purpose of that project was exactly what you mentioned, is to strengthen capacity in outbreak investigation and in disease surveillance. So we trained them in disease investigation, conducting surveillance, analyzing data, risk assessment that Dr. Rupal mentioned, leadership, and communication. So that package is now well developed and already trialed. We have already trained more than 90 people with that, and that package involves an online component and hands-on project. and that can be implemented in India if there is interest. So I would be very happy to work with the Indian government and the Animal Health Commissioner to identify ways to implement that training package in India. So that's one thing. The surveillance issue that you mentioned is certainly quite important, because all of the speakers before me, they have talked about emerging infectious diseases. The majority of the emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic. They are more than 75% of the emerging infectious diseases have an animal origin. So if you want to look for those diseases early on, if you want to detect these diseases before they are able to spread and cause problems like COVID, so you will have to look upstream. You will have to look beyond humans. So currently, most of the focus is on surveillance in humans, or tackling the outbreaks in humans once diseases occur. But the emphasis should be upstream to detect these diseases early on in the wildlife population or in the animal population. To achieve that, I guess we need a good surveillance system. So the surveillance system, when I say surveillance system, that means that is the technical part of the system that the technology or the software engineers, and like veterinarians, Indians are known for their software engineering skills. So I don't need to say more than that. India has a great talent for establishing a technical a great surveillance system. So when I'm in Sydney, so when I meet someone in Sydney on the train or somewhere, and I tell them that I'm from India, they say, "Are you a tech?" People think that anyone from India is either a software engineer or a doctor. So that's one thing. So sometimes I think surveillance is like police and police and intelligence agencies. So what intelligence agencies have to do, they have to identify criminals and terrorists before they are able to commit a crime, right? And then that same is the role of the surveillance personnel. That's the same is the role of the surveillance system, that you want to identify diseases, you want to identify pathogens before the outbreaks occur or in the early stages of the outbreak. And similar to intelligence and police agencies, if the terrorists or the criminals commit a crime, they should also know how to tackle that crime, how to tackle the event or the incident. And similarly, veterinary epidemiologists should also know if an outbreak occurs, how to investigate that outbreak, how to control that outbreak, and how to make sure that that outbreak doesn't spread from that farm to other farms, to other villages, to other districts, or to other countries. But they also know how to tackle diseases or tackle outbreaks after they occur. Animal health surveillance system is important, but also the workforce is important. That the people should, the veterinarians should know how to collect data, how to recognize the diseases, and report that data, and then skills in analyzing that data is like intelligence. So analyzing the data to identify the patterns, to identify where the diseases are occurring, what are the risk factors for those diseases, and how you can prevent the spread of the outbreak. So,
terribly behind time. So Dr. Jana, very quick response on two things. Whenever we talk animal health, we forget fish. And I have reason to believe that fish is also animal. So what are our focus and policies with respect to health management of fish, or let us say aquatic resources? Because at the end of the day, in the entire export basket, amongst all agricultural commodities, the biggest contribution is fish. It's the biggest, single largest export commodity in terms of quantity, in terms of value. So what are we doing in terms of management of aquatic health? That is one. And secondly, a quick response on what is our strategy to fill this huge gap in terms of shortage of veterinary institutions and veterinary doctors available. Now today, you see, as against, I've just got a data here. We've got 10.5 lakh doctors, but only 70,000 veterinarians. And whereas our livestock population, including poultry, is as much as the human population. We've got human population, but only 70,000 veterinarians. We have, including Ayush doctors, we have 1 doctor to 854 people. But we don't have any veterinarians at all. So is there a very concerted strategy to address this issue? Quick response, Dr. Jaina.
Question on the preparedness or what we have at this point of time for fish health strategies. As you know, we have 8 fishery research institutes, and maybe if you go back 30 years back, none of the institute had more than 1 or 2 scientists working on fish health. Today, if we see 8 institutes out of about 600 scientists in place working on different aspects of fisheries, at least 15 to 20% scientists are involved in fish health. That after we realized the importance of fish health aspect. You rightly told the export is okay. One thing is 57,000 crores, what we say is one of the major commodity. But in the domestic front, whatever, for example, the disease loss, what we did estimate, recent disease loss from fish has been in the order of about $2.5 billion US. That means about 18,300 crores we lose every year because of the fish disease. All these years we had given little whatever emphasis on development of formulations, chemical formulation, and so on and so forth. Of course, many formulation has gone to the commercial market, whether it is epizootic ulcerative syndrome or whether it is argulas or recent years the aphanomyces and all those commercially available today we have been able to tackle to good extent. But in case of shrimp, some of the issues like EHP, WSSP and all has remained problem. But only I would like to mention is most of our laboratory are well equipped now. We are talking of not only a referral lab, we are talking of a reference lab of some of the labs has been we have upgraded. Today, the 30 labs which are working on different aspects of surveillance, we have met all those labs at least at the level of level 3 diagnosis, they should be able to do it. But probably more of the knowledge dissemination is so important. As Dr. Navneet was mentioning, the surveillance, the necessity of surveillance, probably people have realized now only. We had never given emphasis on surveillance earlier. But which need to be strengthened further. Unless the state machineries, unless every individual farmers are informed. Recently, sir, we have come out with a report, fish disease app, which will not only give the information, which will give access to the people just to give information, but also we would be able to give remedial measures of whatever disease is there. We recently, last 2 years, we have come out with 2-3 vaccines which never we thought it is. And diagnostic, yes, several of the diagnostic has come up. We have prepared enough. As I told, emergency response system, what we have at this probably is much better than earlier, but we need to invest, as you rightly told, or Dr. Paul was mentioning about the innovation which we need. For innovation, again, human resource, one thing, second is investment and infrastructure. I think it is time for us that the governmental investment is increased. I am sure in coming days, not only Indian fund, even the Fleming fund and all we have been discussing. So I'm sure in the coming days we will be better prepared for any eventualities that may come for the sector in coming days. Coming to the manpower, as you rightly told, everybody knows the human resource quality what we have is excellent. But again, the number, as you rightly mentioned, every state, and all of us know it is a state subject. How do we ensure probably more of programs through government support from the center, support to the state? How do we do that is important. Education, one area we can able to probably help is recent years, of course, there has been emphasis that how do we increase the seat number in all of the colleges, maybe 15% seat, that a step has been taken at least to start with 15% seat we increase. But good thing is several private university has come up. Of course, we know the veterinary council regulates, and because that also is, sometimes people say probably it is too strict, veterinary council is too strict to open a college. Probably, as you told, we have been able to ensure the quality because of that. If we would not have ensured that quality, probably there would have been mushrooming of college everywhere and quality would have been an issue.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Thank you very much. Because you have been working in a very specific agroclimatic zone, the Himalayan region, and we have got similar regions in the whole north of the country, spreading up to the northeast. So do you have any specific recommendation for similar agroclimatic zones for better animal health management with focus on One Health? And you have already been running a pilot on One Health in Uttarakhand. So with that kind of understanding.
Dr. Malik, already with your leadership and with the leadership of Dr. Sridhar was there, already a lot of things have already been done. The introduction of mobile veterinary van, that we are reaching up to the last man, last person, last farmer, animal husbandry farmer at 24/7. That was the remarkable achievement we have done so far. So that is the very one of the important aspects. Are very far away places, are very unreachable places, because reaching up to those area to the one single animal takes a complete whole day. Even if we are going for a treatment or going for an artificial insemination or for any purpose, if we are going to any farmer for the our veterinaries personals has to take complete whole day for the reaching up to one village only itself. So this mobility part has been taken care of, and which has been giving a very good result. Then the another part was that as Dr. Sridhar has pointed out, that each and every their Aadhaar card type of identification of each and every animal is being taken care of. So we have, as you told, more than 30 crores of the animals have already been achieved by that. So if we have a records of each and every animals, and we have a ability to reach up to them, so this way we will be able to reach the farmers and teach them to how to go for the biosecurity part of it, and to attain this our aims of One Health, because this knowledge and the teaching and the providing the facilities up to their doorsteps. That is three aspects are very important. We should know that what is required, how to reach up to them, and how to attain that. That is important. And with that, we are on that.
Thank you very much. In fact, when we are talking about getting into this kind of a mechanism, a centralized database for animals, in fact, I'll touch upon, while concluding the panel, how the government of India has taken initiatives, not only in better surveillance, the kind of initiative Dr. Mitra has talked about in the morning, called Animal Pandemic Preparedness Initiative, which encompasses all these activities, including the development of National Digital Livestock Mission, the surveillance mechanisms, with the smoothing of or streamlining of our regulatory affairs, and all those things. So, thank you very much, Dr. Saab. And to my final panelists of this session, we have got a wonderful and a very important, he is coming in the last, but he is amongst one of those important pillars for the overall sector, is coming from the private industry. We generally look the private industry as our production houses only, but then their support in terms of policy development, their support in terms of technical support in like how we should manage our livestock sector, including the application of those tools and devices which they develop or they adopt from the R&D sector here. So Dr. Atre is right now MD and CEO of ZENEX Pharmaceutical linked. So if you can see also the role of very intense communication strategies in approaching that mechanism where we can actually safely say that antibiotics are properly utilized in the sectors. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Malik. We started participating as an industry about 10 years back in all the One Health Forum. And to our surprise, our counterparts in the medical fraternity, they were not knowing how do we feed or how do we use antibiotics in our area. Because the general impression was maybe we feed them in kgs or something, instead of milligrams. And there was a lot of understanding during the first interaction itself, and subsequently we built a better rapport with the counterparts in the medical fraternity also. Because, right from the beginning, what we have been seeing that whenever there is an issue of AMR, animal health sector is singled out as if these are the people responsible for the AMR issue. One of the antibiotics was colistin, which was officially allowed in the animal health sector. But in the repeated One Health such forums, we found that colistin again is considered as a critical antibiotics even for the human use, because which was not used for many, many years, but then now after the resistance, they found colistin is again very effective. And very voluntarily, I went back to my company, we withdrew colistin, though I knew that scientifically I can still prove that it's not the cause or there is no reason for any such resistance. But also convinced many of my industry colleagues that we should voluntarily withdraw colistin. So that this is the withdrawal period if you are using this antibiotic. And there has been a subcommittee, I am currently the chairman, and we work internally for the control of the antimicrobial resistance. At the same time, a lot of research is also going on. In my own company, we took 8 years to launch a very novel probiotic. Recently, we have launched and Bacillus cerealis ZMP02, which is very, very effective, which can replace even the medicated feed additives also. And there is some good work done by some of the herbal companies as well. So I think slowly we have to move from the areas where we have the fear that it could be the possible cause of the antimicrobial resistance and move to the safer option. At the same time, I would like to assure all the government and the regulators, institutions, that industry would like to work with you shoulder to shoulder, but because alone we cannot achieve the objective. And our objectives are the same, that we would like to see our animals healthy and productive. And therefore, when we work in tandem, there is no loss of resources. In fact, we bring a lot of synergy. So we have been working in that direction, and industry is absolutely aligned to eradicate or to contain AMR impact.
This wonderful platform wherein the regulators, the industry, and the stakeholders are on one platform addressing many issues. I am from CEO Telangana, sir. I am Dr. Manjuwani. So the issues which have been raised now, which have been discussed, are very, very apt to the field. And one particular thing is that today, particularly the INAV, which has revolutionized, particularly the Pashu Aadhaar, though there are certain issues in uploading, and we have been contacting regularly one-to-one case with NDDB and resolving the issues, it is really very nice. But still, I think there are certain gaps which have to be filled in up, I think, which National Digital Livestock Mission is going to address. Sir, particularly this antimicrobial resistance, which is really causing a lot of havoc, particularly to the end users, to the consumers, has to be addressed in coordination with the industry, sir. And this is a very, very important issue. But particularly, there is fear among the consumers about these antimicrobial residues which are going into milk, meat, eggs, etc. And this has to be really addressed deep, and also even such summits have to be conducted even at state level, so that many of the farmers also will be interested, so the end users also can take part of this. Thank you very much.
One point. In cycle, you are talking about cycle, we are left out that medicos. We are focusing on one side of the coin. Other side of the coin, whatever we are taking, all measures, everything is good. but we have to invite medicos or medical experts to this discussion. Then only we can fulfill that final, we can come out with solution. Whatever we are talking, suppose, for example, we are talking July 23rd, World Zoonosis Day. They are talking without veterinarian, how can they talk zoonotic aspect? Simple meeting is going without a veterinarian. At least one veterinarian should represent to know that knowledge, to spread among that public. But they are thinking that they are superior. We are thinking that we are superior. But we have to mingle, coordinate. At least each one, medicos and veterinarians should mingle during that, at least in the summit like this. Then only we can fulfill that aspect. And central government, we are already accepted on board with the medicos, veterinarians are equal. But in so many districts, so many state level, they are not accepting. That is the problem. We cannot sit together in one forum. The time is nearing. Medicos are accepting the veterinarians. They are on par with ours aspect of knowledge and other things. We have to change our egos. They are having some egos. That is the point. We are in this forum. Then only they will understand. Oh, these are the things
Doctor, we
going.
understand that. Thank you very much for bringing this particular point. In fact, this is a good suggestion to the organizers. But from the program, what I could see, we have got just one session on One Health where we have been talking about our animal health sector, how they contribute to that. From the government side, when we are running these programs on One Health, we are definitely including not only the medicos from the policy makers or R&D field, but also from the field. We have been running 2 pilots from the department, one in Karnataka, where not only the medicos, but also the wildlifers. They are the professionals who can give you the first sentinel information about something is going on, so that you can actually go contribute and look into what kind of changes are there. So it's about when it comes to the policy, definitely the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Animal Husbandry, ICR and state bodies, they are working together in bringing this One Health concept on field. So thank you very much for the suggestion.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Dr.
All India Poultry Breeder Association. I fully agree with Dr. Atre, what he said. Being associated with poultry industry, we are very well aware about AMR, and people are voluntarily, as he's saying, they are not using antibiotics like earlier days in the poultry also. And secondly thing is, you see, I have been working to many rural areas, and I have seen all human, most of the human population is being medically served by, what we say, quacks. And all those quacks, they use antibiotics at random without knowing what it is. They don't know what is cefuroxime, what is all this, but they are just using because they have seen somebody else is using. So I think that is the first point to curtail. Second thing, about Dr. Anand, you have been talking about, identification of sheep. It's a very, very difficult. I understand. Now, there are some RIFD tags which are now available on computer with the software. You can have all the record of the sheep if you use them. So, this is just my observation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saab, and it's not doctors. The story is the same, in fact, when you are talking about AMR. So, any other question, suggestion, comments from the audience?
The greatest problem what we have been facing is that the infrastructure. And we are taking so much of responsibility, even the department, and our task is so gigantic, and the infrastructure is not supporting whether the number of veterinarians, qualified para-veterinarians. I'll just give you one example. I mean, this is not today. When I started my career, for a very brief period, I worked with the dairy cooperative. And the first day when I went to the village, there was a fever, when the animal was brought to the hospital, the place where normally they bring the animals. And I took out whatever the antibiotic I had. So I took out the antibiotic and the farmer stopped me. He said, "Sir, what are you doing?" and I came from after graduation, theory was fresh. I started explaining, this is an antibiotic, how does it work, this is very important. I thought farmer would be impressed. But the farmer said, sir, I have been trying this for the last 3 days. Now think of this, the farmer himself was injecting antibiotic. Forget about the paravets and others. So I think there we have issues when the people start doing the medication themselves, and I think you can go to many privately owned livestock tabelas and all, and they keep their medicines and they start using it.
This is one of the most important parameters when we'll be talking about the use of antibiotics in the proper scenario. So, before I conclude, I would like to speak a bit. Dr. Sridhar has already said, you also explained from the first session something in this. So, bear with me, 5 more final report, which has been released in March 2023. That's exactly on 20th March 23. This is called AR6 synthesis report. And I have gone through only the report portion for the policy maker. It's like 35 pages or something. And the scenario is very, very bleak, I tell you. We are already into 1.1 degrees higher compared to what we had around like 1970s, just 50 years. And this 1970 baseline is almost similar to what 1890 to 1900 kind of baseline was there. So we were zero and then we are moving like this. In last 10 years itself, we have got into 0.1 degree average more than the last 20 years something. So it's like we are getting into a logarithmic phase, and the prediction is in whatever DHG scenario we are entering in, we are bound to touch 1.5 by 2030, and if nothing will happen on the GHG scenarios, probably we are bound to touch 2 degrees by 2040s itself, before 2050s. Another paper in the same report, they have been talking about the Arctic ice scenario, when we are going to have zero ice scenario on the North Pole. Initial prediction by 20 to 2050, probably in the earlier part. It means next 15 years, you might lose one big ecosystem called Arctic. Species, another paper which has been out in May 2023 said, we are going into mass extinction of species kind of phase. Because of this, the changes on the overall agroclimatic system, where lots of pressure will be there on the agricultural system, the production system, not only on animals but also on fisheries, particularly our coastlines. We are bound to reach a level where mean sea level will rise by 3 to 6 meters in coming 10 to 15 years. They have been predicting like that. So 5 meters means you are entering few kilometers inside the coastline. It means the temperature of the ocean, the kind of harvesting pressure we are having, the kind of pressure on the agricultural system, the kind of extreme weathers we are going to see, it's going to affect everything, and it's going to affect as a result into the animal health sector as well. So animal husbandry productivity pressure will be there, and this pressure will also be there to feed the human side to keep them healthy. So the pressure will be tremendous, and under that pressure, if we want to weed out something, part of it, probably the onus is in preparedness of everything. Fortunately, when we have been talking about these things, Government of India has initiated few programs in last 3-4 years, and these were some of the programs like Gates Foundation supported One Health program, which is basically into soft kind of capacity building of the system. And for your information, this is the place where we started talking about how we can train the human doctors into animal diseases, how we can train wildlifers into the animal diseases, how humans, veterinary doctors can be trained on the zoonotic diseases and its implications on the human side. So that that animal health sector is the prime focus. Everything will come to this place before it actually enters the human sector. It means we have to strengthen our animal health sector in a big way. For this, we have started this animal ID, the unique ID, animal Aadhaar they call it, under INAF system, which is the Information Network for Animal Productivity and Health. Now this has been converted in a big platform called National Digital Livestock Mission, wherein each and every animal in the country will be uniquely identified and its complete database will be centralized and will be available to all the stakeholders. This is a kind of platform where any independent software, if they want to link with this software, is possible through open APIs. So if you want to get into a platform where you want to build your own telemedicine kind of software, you can develop this and can link to this NDLM platform. This platform will be responsible for all sorts of transactions, means making the complete livestock sector paperless. For example, I tell you, Dr. Khan was explaining the example of Indonesia. In fact, what we have been piloting in 2 states is, it is linked with mobile veterinary units as well. We have got IVRs, we have got, we are into development of softwares also, which are app-based, or the phone calls or the physical entry into the call center. If some farmer calls and explains that this is the problem, they simply ask you what is the unique ID of your animal. They report this and write the tentative things, and this ticket is assigned, open ticket is assigned to a veterinarian in the mobile unit. This mobile unit will reach to the farmer automatically based on what address, what phone numbers and other things are reported already there in the database. So they simply have to tell one single figure of the ear tag. Once they reach there, they have to close the ticket. Close the ticket by indicating not only what the diagnosis is, what kind of laboratory testings they require, but also what treatment they have given. So it means we can regulate the antibiotic usage over there. It can regulate the kind of outbreak reportings, because reporting is a very big concern in our sector. So this can take care of all those things, and this can supported with the artificial intelligence machine learning system. This can actually get a mechanism where this can be popped up as an outbreak in case number of clusters are developing in certain areas. So this kind of system is being developed. This is very important when it comes to trade through the traceability mechanism, because this is being this can get into the traceability. At the same time, Nandi platform has been launched by department, which is basically into the streamlining of regulatory affairs, which is a big concern from the industry side, because these are very important pillars for the overall system. Along with this system, we are working on the environmental surveillance and disease modeling part. Disease modeling has been very successfully utilized during the COVID period on human side, but on animal side, it has been used in certain parts of the world, but can be used through this NDLM database, which we are going to generate in a big way, so that we can start talking about what kind of diseases, what kind of policies, what kind of regulatory framework can be developed, what kind of mitigation strategies can be developed in that. The big question here is, first thing, can we have good tools for these environmental surveillance? Can we have good tools which are species independent for the animal disease surveillance? For this, probably the answer lies with R&D, and a bit has already been started in that direction. IBRI has already been working on the development of sensors for different diseases, so that you can actually get into the field for quick and easy diagnosis of the disease without involving complicated or sophisticated laboratories. Second thing, when we'll be talking about the initiatives from the department, is also about the infrastructural development. Definitely there is a big gap in the veterinary sector infrastructure. So department has come up with two solutions right now. One is about the standards for the hospitals, similar to what has been done on the human side. Second thing is the minimum practice regulations for the veterinary side, animal husbandry, from the VCI. We have been missing the President VCI from the inaugural session. He could have spoken about that. So these two things will definitely support on the, this is kind of the suggestions basically, that you need money for that. So World Bank is supporting not only in terms of loan but also in terms of the grants which Dr. Mitra has spoken during the inaugural session. Apart from that, what we are talking about is building of laboratory capacities, harmonization of the laboratories, because we have got more than kind of 250 laboratories operating throughout the country. But truly speaking, laboratories down at the primary level on the last mile are not really very effective. We have got wonderful tertiary labs, we have got very good secondary labs, but the primary labs are very poor. Enhancing their capacities and infrastructure through the World Bank support is another goal which department is looking at. And finally, the communication, the kind of publicity. Shruti is taking care from Invest India. The team is actually working hard into that direction, not only on social media but also on the ground. And probably all of us into the animal health sector have to be very vocal. We shy away from this particular thing that, like Dr. Atre said, we have not been using so much of antibiotics, but every time everybody blames animal husbandry sector has been the main cause. Yes, we have been, because we are not using the antibiotics in the proper way, the way it has been used. It has to be used. So we have to be vocal, we have to be ready with the data, with information, with facts, that this is the fact and this is how we should be working. And through this, the best part is overall will of the government, administrators. They are very pro to One Health, they are very pro to how animal health can support the overall human health as well. Last part is about funding, about investments. Investments in implementing the policies at the ground level, investments in R&D to bring out the right kind of tools, investments in terms of these communications, the kind of training and capacity buildings and everything. And through this forum, I would like to request agencies like Fleming Fund. They are very pro. Kind of development India is seeing, the kind of plans India has got, I would honestly request agencies like them to talk to Animal Husbandry Department, to talk to ICR, to talk to agencies like where I am now sitting on Agri-Innovate, where we are talking about translating the available science into the useful technologies. So we need funds for that. And if they can support us not only in this but also in developing those tools, implementing those tools and getting impact analysis also, probably that will be very useful. So these investment funds are also very important. So thank you very much for patiently.
Zaman Abbas from Agriculture Today Group to felicitate and honor our panelists for this session. The panel.
I would now request Dr. And last but not the least, I would request Dr. AIMIL to please step forward for the felicitation. I remember very importantly that animal health is no different than human health, misuse and disuse of antibiotics. I would request you for a group picture. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for this wonderful panel discussion. And right before we dive into the lunch, I would now take this opportunity to thank all our sponsors.